morning, everyone. Anthony Tharp. Another insert. It's May 23rd, 2023. It's not just overcast, it's actually raining today by the water, my favorite place. People still enjoying the water and the scenery up and down the intracoastal in their little boats and yachts. So since it's raining, I figure let me just comment on a few things I heard on YouTube and on the news, and again about what's going on in Jamaica. And some people might be saying, why are we driven to even make a big thing over what's going on in Jamaica? And the reason I'm doing it, it's a big thing. It's not just a casual event that's going to fly by and has no effect. The activities that are ongoing in Jamaica now affects not only the entire nation, but practically every Jamaican that has an interest in Jamaica. And even the psychological effects on Jamaicans abroad when they think of home and what's going on, it has mental effects, and so I think it's important for us to deal with it. If we don't express ourselves or get it out, it's gonna add to our stress level. And of course, you know by now, or you should know, because we're so exposed, that stress is one of the starting factors for a lot of other illnesses. And if you're already ill, stress can only add to that dilemma, forcing many of us into serious, health consequences. Some of us unable to survive it. And though you try to control it, there's but so much control when you don't have control. At least most of us think we don't. I'm of the philosophy that we do, and that every little contribution we make, even a comment, affects the universe. It affects what's happening about us, and you mightn't realize it, but even those persons going to online blogging posts and making comments, you might think this is just a casual comment and it means nothing, and it goes one ear out the other of other people who are reading it. But in truth and in fact, no, once you make that comment and other people read it, it's going to affect them or how they behave in the future, directly or indirectly, whether you like it or not. It affects what they think about, how they think about stuff, because your perspective might be different from theirs, as well as different from 1,000 other people or 1,000,000 other people. But regardless of whether it's similar, different, and there's a big difference in your philosophy and how you see things, the importance is that it does help us and other people who come across it to formulate their own patterns of thinking and their own thoughts. And it's important because that's what makes a society work. Persons having discussions about different issues, similar issues, different perspectives, and so those different perspectives, believe it or not, are amalgamated into our own culture, what we do in the future, what we don't do. So it's important. So some people are making a big thing about people coming in and commenting, and I looked at a couple of videos on online. I thought one of the videos I saw on the Mixer Boss, and I've seen some videos on Carlos TV, Jamaica TV, and Mr. Lewis. And Andre, Mr. Stevens, and comments with Mr. Radigan. So those are pretty much the persons who are out there really screaming and getting the word out and waking the populace, letting people know, you don't have to just sit by and allow persons to manipulate or lead you down the wrong path. I mean, the time has come where there's so much information out there, and so many things that people can do to get organized to prevent a lot of the bad things from happening to us again. And they will if we're complicit. They will if people just sit around and allow things to just go by without participating or working towards a common agenda of bringing the best life and living conditions one can give to a people. And if you deny one person's right to a successful life or a high standard of living, then obviously it's going to have effect down the road on you, whether or the populace or the entire nation and the world for that matter, because we're so interconnected now. It doesn't matter how big the Atlantic is, you're in Europe in a second by just getting online. You know, you're seeing what's happening in real time, what's happening in South America, Central America, the Caribbean, Jamaica, and how those things are interrelated. So this whole idea that some people are pushing, that people are just wasting their time and it's not going to make a difference, that's not true. And I made that statement because I heard on, I think it was Carlos TV this morning, a caller was saying, you know what Mr. Radigan is doing and what Andre is doing are in the context. I'm just generalizing that, you know, he's commenting on people doing or taking action and that it's not going to make a difference. I beg to differ. For example, the actions taken by Mr. Radigan with a lawsuit against the politician, the lady, I'm not going to call her name, but the fact is, he was suggesting that there's nothing that's going to come of it. He's not going to be successful because of course we know the judiciary is corrupt. And on the spur of the moment, people might think, you know, he's right, there's nothing going to come of it, blah blah blah, but that's not true. Something has already come of it. The fact that we're discussing it, the fact that there are millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people around the island or in the US or in the UK listening to those persons do their blogging and speaking and taking action, not just talking, because what Mr. Radigan has done is to say to Jamaicans and in fact the world, you don't have to sit around and just accept the nonsense that these politicians go in and do without accountability, without consequence, and think it's okay and they're just going to do it, get away with it, they lose election, they move on, they resign, they retire, and therefore nobody has to pay a price for the mistakes they've made, and mistakes not just accidentally made but deliberately made and calculated and knowing it's going to do damage to the nation. So the fact that we're discussing it, and I heard it from other people and other bloggers, means, yeah, he has already been successful in the action he took. Mr. Stevens, by getting out there and doing all the talking and spilling, and, you know, some people saying it's entertaining. I mean, I've been on the gentleman's channel listening, and he's not only delivering delivering the information, serious information, but it's entertaining. And again, you know, give him props. He gets the information out there, and he's helping to at least ease the tension as well, because if you're just spilling all that bad information without some joviality behind it or comedic instance or promo behind it, then guess what? You're creating a bunch of revolutionaries that could destroy their own lives and existence. So more power to Mr. Stevens and how he presents his program. And I predict you're going to be very successful in terms of reaching out to people about current affairs, being a voice of the people, being a voice of the world. And, you know, entertainment, I think you deserve to get the props and the support out there, because you're not only helping to ease the tension that a lot of people are suffering from what's going on, and a lot of people are pretending that it doesn't affect us, but it does. The fact that they're listening to you and listening to other people means it does have an effect. And so you're helping those people. So everybody that gets on there, listen, whether they make a comment or not. If you're making a comment, you're expressing yourself, you're easing your stress level, and you're letting the people know that you're a part of the world, you're part of the planet, and you have a right to participate. So again, thanks to the bloggers that's out there, because mainstream media is disappointing. Yeah, they know better than what Andrew Holness is doing, or the other politicians. And it's both the leader of the opposition, the opposition, and the leader of the present administration, because they form a part of the government of Jamaica, the parties who were put in place to run the business of the country. And so we have to realize that we need to really focus on those roles and start driving home the point to all the people that's out there that has an interest in the country or any country, whether they're in school, whether they're in primary school, whether they're in high school, whether they're in colleges, whether they're working. That's it. It's important for us to recognize and once and for all start acknowledging that we as citizens, we as voters, have a responsibility. And it's because we've been negligent in our own responsibility, accepting those responsible roles, and putting politicians and people elected to run office run the government, or run our government, work for us, that we have a responsibility to hold them accountable. So the people who are coming on and suggesting that when bloggers make statements and people comment and say this must be done and that must be done, nothing is going to happen because it has never happened in the past and the politicians are manipulative and all of that, that's because we allow it. And I disagree with any kind of statement like that. We have the power to change and to make change. And the fact that we have national heroes is a reminder of that we have the power to make changes or to influence change. And as I pointed out earlier, what you do now, you mightn't figure or think is going to have any major effects down the road or on anybody. But look at our national heroes. Nanny didn't know that she was going to be a national hero of anything. She stood up there and she fought for her freedom and her rights and the rights of other people. Nanny, Paul Bogle, George William Gordon, Alexander Bustamante, Norman Manley, Marcus Garvey, as I said before. Those people had no idea that people were going to recognize the things they were doing in their moment, in their time, and saying, this is going to make you a hero. They weren't fighting for that. They were just speaking out and standing up, and so they got the recognition. And that's what I'm saying now to all Jamaicans and all people around the world. If you're going through these situations with politicians or people who come up and claim they're leaders and all of that, put measures in place to let them know you're in charge. And when you're unified behind that kind of action, you will keep these people in line. And that's the biggest problem with how the world operates now, because we have all these people going in and thinking because they were elected to run the business of the government, they also were elected to dictate policy and dictate. No, you're not. You were never elected to dictate anything to anybody. If you have an idea about how to run the country, and you presented it before you were elected, then execute your plan. But before you make any major changes that's fundamental to the existence of a people of a country, you don't go in there and enforce anything that the people haven't agreed to. And that's the thing we need to put into any kind of constitutional amendment, that no elected person or government can go in there and just make random changes that's self-serving and beneficial to them, because that's what's happening now. And so the important things that we mustn't miss with what's going on is that this is a moment in our history that we must ensure that the things that happened in the past, whether before independence, during colonialism, after that it doesn't happen again, because we're putting measures in place to prevent it. And so what's happening now, again, I heard the gentleman say, oh, nothing is going to happen, nothing is coming out of it. The fact that he's discussing it and making mention of that means something is happening. There's a fundamental change that's happening in Jamaica, amongst Jamaicans, that's saying we aren't going to take this nonsense anymore. So don't fall for that negative outlook that nothing is happening. A whole lot is happening. The fact that we're discussing, the fact that you're listening, the fact that you're listening to other bloggers, the fact that people are calling the Prime Minister and sending messages to him that this is not appropriate. It's inappropriate for you to be conducting yourself in this manner, insulting the Jamaican populace, playing with our psyche, undermining the economy for your own selfish gains. And nobody has a problem with anybody being successful and wealthy, because we all thrive or strive to get there. But you don't get there cheating people or hurting people just for you, especially when you put yourself out there to serve the Jamaican people. You put yourself out there as a servant, and I mentioned the national heroes for that exact reason. Now, when these people are putting themselves out there, they weren't looking that they're going to be heroes down the road. They didn't demand a salary. They didn't demand any kind of money from anybody. They went and created their own communities and created how these communities are going to be surviving. And so they helped to build the economy within those bodies, whether they were up in the hills in maroon settlements or not. But they worked. In South America, you had a lot of ex-slaves or captives who ran away from being treated as slaves and established cities and towns that are still on the map today. And they developed economies, they traded, they did all of that. That's what leaders do. Leaders don't go in there and take advantage of what's in place. Leaders go in there and create opportunities and build on those existing assets that's within the community, so that the people can be sustained long term, and that you build a country that's viable. You don't go in there and take what's there already, raid the coffers, and then think it's okay. Of course, I'm talking about the pay hike and all of that, only because the pay hike only highlights what's been going on in the country for decades. It's just that this one was a brazen move on the part of Minister Holness, that just looked straight in the people's face and in fact spat in people's faces and saying, I don't give a damn about what you think. I'm gonna do this because I'm doing it, I can do it, and I want to do it. And no matter what you say or what you do, it's not going to change it. And the Prime Minister's latest statement again is not complying to what people want, because he's playing with people again. In fact, it's a bigger insult, because you're going to come out and say, oh, I am not going to accept my salary at this time. And it must be emphasized, and I heard it on Mr. Stevens' show, that he pointed out, I didn't hear the whole press conference or anything, but I'm relying on the information that Mr. Stevens gave, and he's been pretty accurate so far, that the Prime Minister actually said, at this time, basically. I'm not collecting the money at this time. And what that's saying is a clear message that I'm going to be collecting my money one way or the other. Might be today, might be next week, might be next year, but in any case I'm going to collect it. So this is an action to distract people again and let people to start jumping up and say, oh, so the Prime Minister is doing that. The important thing to recognize here is that, yeah, it shows that people power, people putting their voices out there, has an impact and has an effect. But one should not be complicit or complacent and sit there now and think, because this man made that statement, it's okay now. He's showing that he has remorse about what he did. No, he hasn't. Because for one thing, there is no talk about pulling back the increases for all these other people that they gave. So he's now putting himself out there as a sacrificial lamb, saying, here people, I am just going to allow the other people to keep the money. I'm not going to keep any. And until some other time. I'll take it at some other time. In the meantime, the swindle has already been done, and they said they're not retracting or pulling back, because the other ministers are now given the option of deciding whether they're going to keep this money or not. Now, when Mr. Holness came out, made the announcement, or the finance minister came out and made the announcement, there was no, oh well, it's optional for the ministers to decide whether they want to keep it or they made a ruling pretty much telling people that this is it. This is what these people are getting, and pretty much it's a done deal. And so if the Prime Minister is going to come out and say he's not going to go along with this increase, then it means he should have said, we are going to, as the government, we are going to pull back on this increase because the people of Jamaica aren't in support of it. That's what the government does. That's what an honorable Prime Minister does, or would do, or should do. And it's not too late, and it won't be too late, and it's going to happen because people must not ease up their pressure on these people, because it's too offensive to think that you elect people to office and they get in there and they just step on your neck, squeeze your neck until you're near dead. You don't have the opportunity to build wealth. Your kids will never have the opportunity to build wealth or be educated, for that matter, because people like this have gone in there and created an economy and a country where you are limited by virtue of your birth. The upward mobility that we were promised or taught that it's achievable is no longer achievable, because you have leadership going in there and decide we are going to create these varying classes of people. So we have this fancy term floating around, the political class. What the backside that about? The political class. Come on. We're going to fall for these, constant statements and creation of new terminologies. It's impressive. What do you mean by the political class is a specific group within the Jamaica community? So we have the political class, we have the judicial class, we have the upper class, we have the middle class, we have the working class, and we have the low class. How many other classes are going to work on? And the whole concept of democracy and capitalism was not to create classes but to destroy classes, because you giving opportunity to everybody to have that upward mobility so that people can engage and become wealthy if they choose to. But a government don't go in there and create classes of people, because now, obviously you can remember divide and conquer, and the way you divide is to segregate. Segregate meaning creating different groupings within a country, then you put those groupings against each other. So here we have now in Jamaica, we have elected officials who have gone in and tricked the people, gotten elected, knowing that their salary was fixed at a certain amount, right on that platform. Then they go in and they're going to extort people to say, oh well, we have been elected to run the country and we're going to decide what's happening and we are going to take what we want and you have nothing to do with it because we are the government. We are a special class that's privileged, that is not registered to do anything for you other than what we think is important, and in fact we're not obligated to any of you. That's what they're saying when they create this new class. And Jamaicans mustn't fall for this. It sounds, like we love acronyms and all kind of stuff, and people are going to be describing as if categorizing stuff as if it's a novel term, it's a novel idea. It's a term, an idea, and a class that we must bust up and decide we don't want it. There is no such thing as a political class that's legitimate. And when you create it and you start legitimize it, and that's where mainstream press comes in a lot of the times. And unfortunately, a lot of us fall for the analogy and the terminology and acronyms, and we start using it, and before you know it, it's sticking around. This whole concept of this 9-day cycle, I don't know where it come from, who originated it. Which 9-day cycle? Because what they're putting out there now is, all right, you have 9 days to do what you want to do, or don't do what you want to do. After that, we're going to move on. That's what the press is saying. So this is another class, by the way. Mainstream media is a class by itself. Attorneys, forming part of the judiciary, another class by themselves. So the vast majority of Jamaicans who are struggling, working poor, will never make it, can never be successful because of our structure. And so we must at this point destroy this idea about a political class. Bloggers, I'm calling on you to identify. Don't let us fall for that. Don't get people to accept it or start practicing this idea, putting it in our psyche that we have this special class of individuals, the political class. A person runs for office. They go there, they serve the people. Their term of service is over. They move on. What kind of political class? So we're creating another political designation so that our economic designation for people now to go ahead and continue to divide the country, divide the planet, and destroy the existence of everybody on this planet. Because that's what's going to happen. Because many of us think the days of revolutions and war and violent overthrows are over. No, it's going on right now in Africa and South America and Mexico. Even the US with these crazy people running around about white supremacists and white this and white that. It's out there, military violent people. You look at January 6th and the White House. What do you think that was about? You think that those were peaceful people protesting or making a statement? No, that was a violent attempt to overthrow the United States of America. And once you plant that seed, there's no turning back. So even though we have this prosecution of various persons who were involved and Donald Trump, the seed has been planted. And so you have other people out there now who are now justifying why they saw what happened on January 6th. They saw how effective it was. Guess what? If we organize, if we're better organized, if we have better weaponry, then guess what? The next move, we're going to be successful. That's how you have governments being overthrown. The seed has been planted that the way Americans should change government is no longer the way that's acceptable. So if that revolutionary change is established in the US, and it is, why are we so ignorant and foolish to believe that that won't happen in the Caribbean, in Jamaica? You saw Haiti. We see Haiti. We have thugs running Haiti. We don't have a viable government in Haiti. It's a failed state. You have gangsters running Haiti. Because when they can determine who comes to Haiti, if you come, we want money from you, so we're going to capture you, kidnap you, and get paid. They have their own economic system operating. And the government in Haiti, quote unquote, limited as they are not functioning. And so they're getting money to be members of parliament and all of that, and they probably have their own little schemes running. That's like what's happening in Jamaica. But the fact is, the seed of dissent and revolution and hate, is happening in Haiti, in South America, all over the place. Same thing. Africa, same thing. So don't think that we can just sit around in Jamaica and allow these things to go by unresolved and accepting that this is what we need to do or not to do and just allow it. Put a blind eye. Obviously what we know is a problem for the nation. So those are some of the important things that we mustn't miss out of the last couple of weeks. The importance of those things, the things that are unfolding, is saying to you, a Jamaican, I cannot afford to sit by idly, or you should not be affording yourself to sit by idly, ignore it, and pretend nothing is going to happen in the future. I mean, 15 years ago, people would be talking about the government going in there and giving themselves a 300,000 or 300% increase in salary, and then trying to con the people and play on the people's psyche to justify it, and literally trying to intimidate people into accepting it. Because when you have those persons coming online and issuing threats to other people who are objecting to this kind of thing and this kind of behavior to people, the only way they can come online and do all those things without consequence is because it's allowed. Now, I heard one person came on and he was spewing a lot of violence, and I'm not in favor of any of that. And he was arrested, or so the information I got online. He was arrested. Don't know if factualities are true, but anybody that comes on and threatens anybody with violent action or threatens the country, okay, you're not just threatening the Prime Minister. When you threaten to come with big guns, bigger guns than the police have, and all of that kind of stuff, you're making a declaration of war. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Nothing that's said and done goes unacknowledged. There are people out there who accept it. There are people out there who believe that the Prime Minister have the right to go in and take whatever money he wants as payment. And one of the disappointing things that I've heard is that, oh well, they're running a government and it's not easy to run a government. Guess what? If you ever run a business, any kind of business, and I'm not talking about some chop shop or medical facility or patty shop. If you ever run a major enterprise where you're responsible and the fiduciary for investors and all of that, then you'll know running a corporation of any magnitude, if you're honest, it's no different than running a country. It's no different. It's the same the kind of decisions you have to make. And so this idea that just because you're a prime minister or you were elected, you deserve to get an increase. No, you deserve to get an increase if you justify it by performing. You deserve to get an increase if inflation is so rampant and uncontrolled, and you have a responsibility to control inflation for the people. If that happens and you are not having a living wage, or the money that you went into office knowing was the salary you're getting can no longer meet your expenses, your living expenses, and a reasonable quality of life, then yeah, fine. Let's increase it. But you don't increase the money yourself. You're working for us. We are your bosses. No employee can just walk into a boss's office and say, guess what? We're going to take X amount of money next week to increase our pay. It doesn't work like that. And it doesn't work like that in running a country. So the fact is, a lot of us out there are trying to find the simplest way to excuse what the Prime Minister has done on his government and the Minister of Finance. Find a way, a loophole to slip them through. There's no loophole. The man messed up. And he's a man. He's nothing more than a man. This whole designation of Prime Minister, and you've heard me advocate before, we need to get rid of this nonsense about honorable this and honorable that. These people are servants of the people. They work for the people. You're not honorable this, not honorable that. You continue to function in your capacity as an elected official. And the honor is not on you, but the honor is how you serve. You should be honored to serve the people and not be searching for an entitlement about you are the honorable this. No. You should be honored to serve the people. You put yourself out there that I want to be a servant of the people. So we need to remove all these things from our political life and all of that, because it does have the effect of putting people in place and telling them that you don't have the power to determine what happens in your government, or these people who you put in office. You don't have the power to do anything because they're the honorable person. They're the honored ones. Their service is what they're there to put in place and serve the Jamaican people. So psychology is important in how we function, and don't think it's not. They've been playing with us throughout the centuries with psychology. That's how they kept a lot of our people in slavery. You capture a person, you incarcerate them, and then tell them they're slaves, and you can do this, you can do that as a slave, and you're inferior. You're only 1/3 human. That's what they used to say, and that was done to make you think you're inferior. They treat you a certain way, they give you certain foods, you have to live a certain way because you're not fully human. They registered you on documents saying you're stock. And that's still going on. Slavery is still out there. People are being sold, bought and sold. Human trafficking. We miss our kids, we miss women, we miss that they disappear from Jamaica or from the US and in Europe, being sold and being treated like dirt. They have no value. They're less than a dog. And that's what we allow when we think we don't have the right to stop these people. We are subject to gangsters and criminals like in Haiti or even Jamaica, who think they have a right to come out and threaten the Prime Minister, threaten the nation. Because I say, when they threaten the Prime Minister, they're threatening the institution of government. It's threatening the government that people have put in place. And we have legitimate and legal and civilized ways to make changes. So we shouldn't accept the nonsense when people come on and start spewing all this violent action. What we need to do is put things in place to say, you're not functioning, then you'll be fired. We're not waiting until another election when we catch you in the stealing or trying to defraud the nation. We put measures in place that we can have a society where we don't have to worry about being threatened, our lives being threatened, or destroying our country because some people think violence is the way to go. Those people are the people who end up in prison and losing them lives eventually. They might take out a few people, kill a few people, hurt a few people, scare the rest of the country into feeling that there is no hope for the island, scare people from coming into the island to spend and build the economy. They scare those people, and they scare a lot of people. But eventually, guess what? That hammer falls, that guillotine comes down, and he's no longer around. And you know how fast we can get that done? When people who are subject to their terror rise up and say, listen, we don't want you in our neighborhood, we don't want you here, and if you try to do this, guess what? We're going to come down here, we're going to deal with you as an individual. These people are cowards. They're scared of mass movement, just like those crooks we have in politics. They're cowards, and that's why when you go in, you use the political power or the political leverage that we've assigned, because political power belongs to the people. And so we have to, again, the whole psychology of it, we have to learn how we speak. We have acknowledge that we need to make changes in how we address certain things. So the political power is with the people, not with the politicians. But we've given them the idea that you have a political might that you're going to use against the people. And this is what is happening now when you hear people being threatened. If you decide you're going to demonstrate, guess what? We're going to use the police, and we're going to come down there and we're going to deal with you. That's an abuse of the population, abuse of your given duties or your responsibilities as a servant of the people. You don't have any legitimate power to take people's constitutional or civil right or human right because you've been elected to office. And that's why we don't want tyrants. That's why we don't accept the fact of coups where people just go in there and then decide they want to stay there forever. Sometimes actions like that are necessary because we have a tyrannical government who thinks they want to get in there and do the things we're objecting to right now. And when it gets to the point where people and what they desire for the country and they can't get it because tyrannical people are in place with gangsters attitude that they're going to force people to do what they want them to do and not what the people want or what's good for the people, they're going to force them with this gangster attitude and this cheap psychology to say, guess what? We're not coming out. At that point, we've seen it. We've seen where we can legitimately say, yeah, people are justified in going in there and dealing with the government or the people who are elected and are in there and refuse to leave. So we have to become vigilant and no longer relax ourselves to accept what's going on and think it's okay. It's not going to go away. It's going to come back. The ugly monster only changes its shape. The monster only changes its shape. The same oppressive thing that was going on during slavery, during colonialism, is the same oppressive type of governments we've inherited. And unfortunately, we didn't do anything about it when independence was coming because, frankly, we didn't have a say about what was happening or what kind of government we wanted when independence was coming. A few people got together and wrote a constitution. And the people didn't have a vote to say, well, we don't want this in there or we don't want that. When the constitution was written, they put it out there and said, go vote. And of course, people think when they vote for a document that's being prepared, they're having a say. No, you've been given no choice. People must work through the processes of deciding on what they want their country to be, how they want their country to run, what kind of government they need, and what kind of limitations we're going to put on politicians. That was never done, has never been done. And that's why in my previous video yesterday, on the 22nd, I indicated that we need to have more serious dialogue around this constitutional matter and put things in place that will not be similar to what's in place now, but what will work to eliminate the obvious problems we have in government, the corruption. Nothing has been done or addressed in terms of corruption from what little I've heard about this constitutional matter. This whole salary increase, the government hasn't come out and said, well, we are aware of corruption that's going on in the government and the courts, and we're putting these things in place to eliminate corruption. No, you're going to give the judges all these massive increases, and then nothing is said. How are we going to keep these people in check? Do you believe a crook or a corrupt person is going to be satisfied with what kind of money they have? No, guess what? Greed is not something you can satisfy. The more you have, it's the more you want. And I'm not saying it's bad for people to want more or want better. I'm saying when it comes to greed, a person will do whatever they want or whatever they can, regardless how legal, moral, ethical or other it is, to get more. And so when you give a judge a big pay hike knowing this judge is corrupt, then you think it's going to stop him from doing other things when his friends come in or his clients come in and say, we want this done, then do it. You think he's going to do it for free now? No, we have to stop being silly. And that's what when the Prime Minister is coming about this whole idea that it's going to attract this and attract better people. No, that's bull. That's bull. I won't say the rest. You know the rest. That's BS. Greedy people, gangsters, crooks, they never learn. And that's why a bank robber never stops robbing a bank until he's caught. Because you get away with it first time, you figure, I'm going to get away with it all the time. Until you're caught, and then you lose everything. And that's what we have to start realizing as a people, as a nation. We have to stop being so silly that we're quick to forgive and forget. Now what we need to do is sanction these politicians and tell them we don't ever want to see you running for office in this country again. And though the Constitution obviously will give them the opportunity to do so, how we can drive that message home is just not elect them. When they come, we reject them at the ballot or the polling stations and let them know we're not accepting this, we're not accepting you, until the person realizes, sorry, I'm wasting time and money to keep doing this. People aren't going to fall for my tricks again, so I can't go in there and swindle and hustle. the country's resources. Because that's what crooks do. That's what tyrannical governments do. They're going there to do their own hustle. They're going there to take people's hard-earned cash, create all kind of taxation systems, and then they steal the money from behind. They using their duties or responsibilities or the offices that we put them in. After that, overtax the population, they find ways to steal the money. And that's what's happening, and that's what we need to stop. So the whole idea, again, in summing up, where some people are now coming out and saying, oh, the Prime Minister is a brilliant tactician, because he pulled that stunt and he won up on the leader of the opposition. Those people are creating distractions to the real issue. There was never any issue about people being upset about a competition between Mark Golding and the Prime Minister. There was no this matter about the salary increase and the abuse that's been taking place and the insult was never about a competition between the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition. But here now we have these pundits, mainstream pundits out there. Oh, Mark Golding basically got clobbered by what the move that the Prime Minister did when he said, I'm not going to take the increase. And I'll point out to you that the con behind this is that, as I said, I've heard, and I'm quoting from what Mr. Stevens said in his broadcast when he analyzed the press conference and what the Prime Minister said. Not paraphrasing. The Prime Minister actually said that I am not going to take that money now, or yet, whatever the adjective is. We're not going to take it yet, or no. So, I'm going to take it down the road. He didn't say that, but basically that's what that statement means. And so, because he made that statement, the celebration now is that, it's all over because Mark Golding missed the opportunity, because Mark Golding went and said he wanted 20%. And so now he lost the battle. This is not a fight between Mark Golding and the Prime Minister. This is a fight where we are telling the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the government in place and standing, that you messed up, you screwed up. You insulted the Jamaican people. You exploited the Jamaican people. You stole from the Jamaican people. You gave it to your ministers. You must now go in as the Prime Minister and step up in front of the people at press conference and say, we are sorry. We're going to pull back this. This is not what the people wanted. We have to find a way to deal with it at another level and another system to come up with decisions on how we do this. We are going to work on the Constitution. We're going to put the information out there. We're going to rally people to participate in the decisions that's surrounding this new Constitution so that we could put things in place to stop the corruption, to stop people from thinking they can come into government and undermine the country, defrauding the people, defrauding the whole system of government we have and the economy, and think they're going to just walk away with a fat pension at the end of the day. That is what the Prime Minister should be doing, and this is no competition between Mark Golding and the Prime Minister. This is the people of Jamaica saying, you work for us and we're not going to accept this nonsense. And in fact, to send a message, a resounding message to the world and to other politicians, these so-called politicians that are now going to be attracted to running to be in office because the money is good, that suggests and tells us right away that if you have people running on that basis, the results can't be good. Those can't be the right people for office, because your motivation is money rather than your motivation is to build a better country that's so built that everybody can improve their standard of living and the quality of life, even if we don't have increased salaries for the next 50 years. Because the whole idea of increasing salary is to say that the economy, we are chasing inflation. A government is in there to control inflation. So here now we're giving ease of access to these people to go in and say, well, We have no control over inflation, but we want increased payment. And so the people who are paying the taxes will have to bear the brunt of this and suffer and come up with money to pay us. But we don't have any real impact or role on fixing the country. Please, we have to realize that we must stop this nonsense. We must. So those pundits or those persons who are out there, and again, we want to hear the comments, because this way we can address it and people can address it, and it's not shoved under the rug. And the beauty about social media is that it gets out. So the people out there, like the gentleman that was on Carlos TV, Jamaica TV, was saying, oh, nothing is going to come of it. Guess what? I'm reminding you, something has come of it. The fact that you're making those statements, and the fact that people, whether 10 people or 50 people, demonstrated, something is happening. People came out. And the voice, you might not have seen 100 people or 1,000 people out there. But if you look at the data online, thousands and thousands of people are paying attention, are making statements, are getting involved. And the psychology of that is that you're going to have a serious impact on how these people behave. Because people expressing those things want to see things happening. And whether it happens today or tomorrow, next week, if these persons who are pushing the envelope about change and improving the country keeps doing what they're doing, we're going to have significant change. So a lot is happening. You know, you don't have a tidal wave just popping up on the beach. A tidal wave travels from thousands of miles away sometimes. But when it gets here, the impact is significant. And if you're not prepared, then you're going to be wiped out or wiped away or washed away in that tidal wave. So my recommendation to every Jamaican, whether you're politically driven or not, if you have an interest in your own life, in your own lifestyle, in the quality of life, you need to pay attention here. As I've said, if you don't want to participate in, elections, that's one thing. Dealing with the Constitution is not participating in a political election. It's about deciding and making the rules and boundaries that we want our country and our people to operate within that sphere of events to make our lives better. It's not a political decision. It's a decision like you make every day. You wake up and say, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy this. If the guy in the store is overpricing the goods, taking advantage, well, we're going to say, we're not going to buy it. That's what this constitutional matter is about. So press for constitutional amendments first before we even discuss any kind of salary increases. And I said, no politicians that's making $9 million in Jamaica, in the Jamaican economy, who is overpaid $4 million and not doing everything and getting subsidies, not doing anything, getting subsidies for everything. They technically don't buy anything. Housing allowance, phone allowance, car, security. This is what these fringe benefits represent. It represents that these people are being compensated. So technically, their salaries aren't bad. There's nothing offensive or ridiculous about the kind of money they were being paid. So this nonsense again about people coming on and say, oh, I have no problems with them getting a pay increase. You should have a problem with them getting a pay increase when the rest of the country cannot get it, cannot afford it. Because every time they put $1 on the salary, it means those struggling people out there are now have to pay more taxes. So there are consequences to those actions. It's not just randomly increasing and money just pops up from elsewhere. Nobody's giving anybody money to pay these guys. Taxpayers have to come up with it. And we're already overtaxing the people. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on the salary issues, because my philosophy is that teachers, and I said in a previous video, I think it was on the 21st, that people kick us in our behinds and we sit and we accept it and we smile and we keep taking it and keep taking it. And each time they kick us, we take it. And teachers and civil servants have to stand up and decide enough is enough. As I said, we don't have to be violent. We don't have to go and encourage criminals to go and ruin society. That's the furthest thing from what we want. But there are effective ways to deal with people like the Prime Minister and the government and how they treat people. And though I keep addressing the Prime Minister like everybody else, we address him because he's the leader of his political party and they're in office. Hence the reason I said yesterday, we should find ways to dismantle this whole idea that it's political parties that must run exclusively in an election. It's individuals who are going to be providing leadership and help us build our country, to serve the people, to serve the nation, that we need to run for office. And so even if they belong to a political party, people shouldn't vote for them on that basis. They should come to the people, and we should have a system in place where individuals who aren't connected to any political party can simply be selected by people within the community and asked to run for office. And so we can help to eliminate and control this whole corruption. Pay me and I represent you in government. Pay me more, I'll give you more effective representation. Don't pay me, I'm going to set up things to rob you. That's basically what's going on. Because I pay you more, you're robbing me anyway. Because you're increasing my taxes and you're not doing anything for it. And every time you take a dollar from me, you're diminishing my ability to survive. You're diminishing my ability to look out for my future generations, my children. You're diminishing my ability to go take my money and invest it or open my business. You're diminishing my quality of life because the money that you're stealing or taking from me through adverse taxation so you can get paid is money I could use to go on a vacation so I can manage my psyche, manage my health. So the whole idea that this is just about a salary and between civil servants and all of that is far from the truth. And everybody in private industry that's also employed should recognize that. Because guess what? When they raise the money, you're the taxpayer. Whether you work in government or work for civil service, teachers, nurses, and you work in private industry, you're in a corporation. Guess what? When they raise the taxes, it's going to affect your taxes as well. So don't think I'm sitting in the office and, oh, it's only them people have to go protest or say something. No, guess what? You're being stolen from as well. So, we kind of have this hands-off attitude to say, it's not me, it's the police, it's the fireman, it's the teacher, it's the nurse, it's not me. But when that nurse comes in and can't pay her rent and she's stressed out and she's giving you an injection and she's so distant because she don't know where her life is going and she end up giving you a wrong injection or sticking it too hard, you're going to get upset with the nurse. But these things affect the psychology of the people. When you have a policeman out there who genuinely wants to serve and is exposed to other people out there hustling in the force, and they see people speeding and they pull over those people, and you go down to pay a ticket when you get that ticket it's 10,000 or 5,000, and the poor policeman out there is saying, I'll use my discretion, but throw me a few dollars, throw me some money. And a lot of them say, oh, you can buy us a water. You know what they're talking about. But this is why those officers are now put into that position of being compromised. And I remember months ago I remember seeing where they had locked up a police woman for taking up a bun and cheese in a store that was being raided after some hurricane, I think, or major event. And they lock up the woman and charge her. Taking about a bun and cheese because the principle is wrong. What they're saying, you're the officer, you shouldn't go and take up nothing, which is true. But that's the position we put people in when we have them desperate. And so whether in private industry or not, you should recognize that the actions that these people took in bullying the Jamaican people, that they want more money and they're going to demand more money and they're going to take more money, and whether you like it or not, we'll be paid. Guess who's going to pay the bill? You, the taxpayer. So the things that just unfolded, or some of it, it's affecting your lifestyle. You'll never own a home. You can't pay your rent. Every month you have to be negotiating with your landlord. You're short the landlord. The landlord is forced to take it to court because he needs his money to go pay the mortgage or the taxes that these people are increases on his property taxes. So you think the landlord is making a ton of money. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. But now you're cutting into his cash flow because he have to go pay increased taxes on the property. And if him not paid, they're coming in to steal your property or take your property. So you see the repercussions. It's not just about the salary the Prime Minister is pushing down on our people to go pay to these people. And when he comes out and say, I'm not taking mine, he's not saying those people are going to be cut back. No, he shouldn't have said that. This is where I roll it back as the government and done with it. Because you're going to end up cheating all the taxpayers, all the people in the island, the kids who have to go to school. You're taking money that should go to schools and improve healthcare and pay these ministers. And our health is the worst in the Caribbean. Our health service, amongst the worst anywhere. Our security, worst. We have the most violent society, top 10. I think somebody said top 5. And that's real. We have the worst economy. One of the worst economies in the world. And a Prime Minister is going to go in there and demand money. Just take it. Just take it because we haven't limited them. Jamaicans, people, I want to thank you for allowing me to express myself because it's frustrating. As you know, if you've been watching my videos, not only do I have a national agenda to see Jamaica a better place, but I'm actually one of the Jamaicans who put my money where my mouth is. I want to see Jamaica progress. So guess what? I have major investments on the island. And I have been targeted by these corrupt people. The courts. Politicians who sit around and don't fix the whole issue. Law enforcement. And though Mr. Radigan thinks maybe he's the first to sue these public officials, no, guess what? Hopefully I showed you. I filed a lawsuit against several of these agencies and people. A whole host of them because of all the corruption that's been identified and they're negligent on performing their duties. I filed a suit and the suit is filed. The gentleman who should serve them, the bailiff, as I said, he disappeared. He said he served them. Yet none of them filed a response to the claim. And I think he took off because he was threatened. Don't have any proof, but he used to do his job. Collected. I gave him a bag of money. One of those grocery bags, I remember, there was about 10 or 12 people in that particular lawsuit as defendants, including the Commissioner of Police, right? Integrity Commission, Minister of Justice, or Ministry of Justice, the Chief Justice. All of them on a list and were sued. Justice Morrison and Justice but anyway, it's in the courts. And as I say, I'm waiting on documents and we're going to run over that and provide you with all the evidence. So again, I'm reaching out and saying to Mr. Radigan and Mr. And all the bloggers out there, Mr. Stevens, that lawsuits have been filed against these people for the exact reason that you're targeting this lady for being corrupt. And I would suggest that you look at the lawsuits that's out there. And I've said to everybody out there who's having problems, use me, use my stuff, use the things in the court, get access, go down there, read the information and realize that corruption has been identified. We pointed it out in our videos, and yet nothing is being done. So I am one of those persons who are extremely elated to see that bloggers, people now are rising up and voicing their opinions, because regardless of what happens, those actions will make Jamaica a better place. So I want to thank you. Know that you're important. Know that what you say, you do, and don't do has an impact and effect on society and the community that you want to live in. And for those in the diaspora, you're not divorced of it either, because again, the fact that you're in the diaspora and you're even listening means you have a concern. And that concern is going to stress the hell out of you if it's not fixed, if we keep seeing things go down the drain, even if you don't intend to return to Jamaica at all. But at some point, most of us like to go on a trip. And a lot of bloggers are calling for a boycott of remittances and all of that. And I support it. I support it from the simple fact that as long as the people in Jamaica are getting or receiving these remittances and the government are taxing it, and the government taxes it now, and I'm one of those who said there's needed regulation on that, because persons in the US or elsewhere on the planet who send remittances home don't realize that when they send it from wherever they're sending it, they're charged a fee. And your person in Jamaica or wherever is supposed to pick up the money you're sending. And what they do is that they say you can't pick up the money that or the currency that you're sending. They have to pick it up in the Jamaican currency. What happens there is that when they pick it up in the Jamaican currency, they undervalue what they're paying people as. Oh, this is what we're buying it for today. No, the people don't want. You never told you to sell the money. But they're being forced to sell it back to Western Union and all those other FedEx people, or not FedEx, but that other thing that they have in association. I think it's Grace Connected. They're forcing you to sell them your money at whatever they decide they want to pay. And then if you were getting that money to go do something that you need US dollars for, you have to now go back to those same cambios and buy the money that you want, whatever currency you want, so that you can do your business. So these are criminal activities that should stop, and regulation should be dealt with. But the Prime Minister is so busy trying to fatten his pocket or his minister's pocket that they don't see all of this. But it's cheating Jamaicans. It's cheating the economy. Because Western Union don't send any money down Jamaica. Western Union send money from other people down there. So all the Western Union profits stay in the US or wherever, not building the Jamaican economy. And instead of us finding ways to capitalize on all that money coming in, we're finding ways to undermine the economy and rob Jamaicans abroad. Because that's what you're doing. You're allowing Jamaicans abroad who want to send money home to their relatives and friends, or for whatever reason, you're allowing the system to rob them, cheat them of their money. Because here we have to pay to send the money. When it gets here, you tax the money because you short people what they're supposed to be getting, because you as a government tell these remittance places that, oh, this is what we're paying today, this is the government's rate for today's currency, and so those people now underpay people for their money. Oh, if you're buying a check, we're paying you more. If we send cash, we're taking more. Now how could that be just? But that just reflects on that this whole thing that's happening, and that's what I've said to you, I'm going to be winding up shortly, is that it's not just about the salary, it's about the things that these people are doing that have effect on all of us across the board. It's not just the civil servants, it's not just the teachers, it's not that, it's every person that has a job in Jamaica, it's every business person, because those business persons who have the hands-off attitude too. And I'm saying even the Chinese guys who have supermarkets here realize that it's cutting into your product, because you have to go increase your product because of inflation driven by this increase that these people are getting unjustly. And then you have to now go increase your prices to the people who are buying from it, which means they have to buy less because they have less money. So overall, it affects the entire country. It's not just the simplistic outlook where some of the pundits are now saying, oh, the Prime Minister is one up on the Mark Golding. It has nothing to do with them. It has nothing at all to do with them. And though we expect the opposition to really step up and become more aggressive, It's not has nothing to do with a one-up on Mark Golding. That's not what this is about. This is about trying to fix, not trying. We're going to fix the problems that's going on. And as I said, I am one of those persons whose money is where his mouth is. I have major investments in the country. I've had people, I've led people to invest in the country. And we are being tied up of or abused of or defrauded of our money, our investments, just by the court itself refusing to grant orders that we are deserving of. We actually won cases and we can't get a final order to go collect our money, to get our project started. And in fact, they took action to even change the law to sabotage our projects. But as I said to you before, and I want people to pay attention, I don't want you to forget and the bloggers to forget, Mrs. Holness is a developer and she's probably registered with the real estate board. But Mrs. Holder's development companies or companies doing the development don't possess a real estate dealer's license. And the appeals court says as long as those companies or persons don't possess a real estate dealer's license, they're operating illegally. I provided evidence and case law to the lady that's being sued by Mrs. Holness or vice versa. And I'm sitting to see what happens there. But I notice people are quiet on that because the distractions out there, including one the Prime Minister just pulled, which is another distraction from the real issues. Because it's issues like what's happening to Mrs. Holness and happening to us that's saying to people now who want to invest in Jamaica, why should we? I had a conversation with an attorney in Florida, over the weekend, Jamaican. And his discussion was, guess what? We're looking at Africa. And what do I think? Honestly, I told him, Africa is a budding place, a good place to look at. Because we're not only connected genetically and have a stake in Africa. Nobody can tell us we don't have an interest in Africa. Look at me. You can tell me, say, I can't lay claim to anything in Africa. But beyond that, it's a good environment to look at for investment purposes because everybody else is running to Africa. There's a second scramble for Africa going on right now. And the comparison is Africa versus Jamaica. So I pointed out to him that I've had investments on the ground where our money is tied up in Jamaica from 2005 until now. And even though we have had rulings in our favor, we have approved projects sitting that we've sat and we saw all kind of investors and foreign entities and local people, including the Prime Minister's wife and her construction, coming in building, schemes and projects, and ours are sitting because we have corruptions in the court, corruption in government, and there's nothing being done, but yet we're giving these people, paying them to be corrupt in a sense. Thanks for listening. Know you're important. Look in the mirror. Realize that you have value. And so you don't get so depressed that you don't treat yourself with love and respect. Bring your loved ones close. Hug them. Kiss them. And realize that you're not here just for you. When you take care of you and your family, you're helping to take care of the rest of us because good things are experienced by everybody. Thank you. Have a great one.